every time there was a flyer, it always said from Bakersfield. It didn't say from California or didn't say from the US. And I thought that was something I was really proud of. It always said from
Nice.
Bakersfield. And that's the one thing I loved that we were doing at the time, not just us, but like the Pine Contaminators, all the Munoz stuff. It was like, we are from Bakersfield. It was like, it wasn't we are from California or we're from the Central Valley. It was, we're from Bakersfield.
You're listening to the San Joaquin Sound Podcast. I'm your host, AJ Rodriguez. This episode is about the band Loser Life. Back in 2005, they were the flagship band of the Munoz Boxing Gym. If you don't know about Munoz Gym, check out episode 1 because it will give you a lot of context for this episode. In addition to shows at the gym, Loser Life toured all over the US and throughout Europe while releasing multiple albums and EPs. For this episode's interview, I called drummer and vocalist Steven Koontz, who now lives in Chicago.
I grew up by the fairgrounds and I just got into skateboarding at like a young age. It was the mid 90s. That was like what was people were doing. It was, I went to school on the other side of town. So a lot of people wouldn't come to my side of town to skate. So I was just kind of by myself. And through skateboarding movies, I like got more into punk and hardcore. That like kind of went hand in hand with each other, right? Like skateboarding and music.
Yeah.
And like especially the mid to late 90s, it was like very distinct where it was like you got into punk or you got into hip hop. And I was already really into like metal and rock and roll because when I was a young kid, I got like my first 3 cassettes were Guns N' Roses, Alice Cooper, and Danzig. Not because I'm like some cool kid that got into Danzig. It was because that song Mother was popular. And I'm like, oh, that was a cool song. And I bought the cassette tape. Out of those 3, that was probably my least favorite. But then when you didn't really have a lot of access to music, you just listened to it over and over again. And so that was my base. And then, again, I was into like anything from like, Smashing Pumpkins, whatever was on the radio, Smashing Pumpkins to porn or whatever. And then when around 5th, 6th grade, when you start skateboarding, you get skateboard videos. And that's when you hear everything. You hear Misfits, you hear Black Flag, you hear, especially like Welcome to Hell from Toy Machine.
Nice.
And Thrill of It All and Misled Youth from the Zero videos. Like those 3 movies and then Jump Off the Building, those 4 movies, they like got me into almost everything that I'm into, even nowadays. Right. So
that's cool.
That's how I got like into punk. And then at my school, the guys who skateboarded, they also got into punk and hardcore and just music or whatever. But I had way more of a passion for it than they did. Like they were like really into skateboarding, and like and so was I. But I like really got into the music aspect of it. And so I started. My mom, I was just my mom and I, and she worked nights, and so I would play like my first like punk CD that I got that was like obviously like Misfits and Black Flag, but then the first one I got was Operation Ivy, the compilation, the LP and the 7-inch.
Yeah.
And I heard the song "The Crowd." It's like song 5 on the CD, and it was so good that like my mom worked nights, so I would go home and I'd get butter knives and I'd learn how to play drums on pots and pans. And that was the song. I'm like, this song is fucking incredible. Like that song alone was like drums in the beginning and the bass line and the singing. Like it's amazing. It didn't age well for me. It's still awesome. But like if people would be like, oh, like what's the song that got you into everything? Or the band that got you into anything? It wouldn't be Operation Ivy. But I just remember like getting my hands on that. It like really became my whole focus and passion.
Yeah.
So then like 6th grade, I just like and when you're skateboarding, you start meeting people around. You start meeting people around, right? So like, we eventually moved from by the fairgrounds over to Southwest, and then that's when I met more skaters who I've been friends with for a very long time, and we all got into music together. And eventually, and some of them played bass, and so then when they played bass or guitar, I asked for a drum set. And again, I was getting pretty good with the pots and pans, and then we eventually started just jamming together. Probably like my 8th grade and freshman year in high school. So
That's cool. So, were you starting a band before you ever went to a show?
yeah, my mom hated that I was into all this stuff. She like she hated that like I liked music and skateboarded, and she kind of like laughed like, oh, he's just a boy. But like I think she always like wanted me to be like a football player or whatever. So the allure of downtown, of 19th Street and all that stuff, allure of downtown was like really dangerous and scary. So we couldn't get a ride to go. Like, she was like, you're not going down there. That's too, like, and in our brains, again, like 13 years old, 14 years old, you're like, yeah, it's like, it's scary down there. So like we got really proficient using the get bus, because we'd go and skate downtown. We go to the courthouse, or we go to the beach park, or there's all different skate parks around town. But like at night, like we wouldn't want to. 19th Street was terrifying, totally scary, So
Yeah.
we didn't ever go to shows. It wasn't until I was a freshman in high school where I had an older friend who's a year older than me. He didn't skateboard. He was just like just like a guy who liked to dress very punk, and he would go to shows. And he lived next to a guy who was like always downtown, hanging out with all the people at the shows. So I started hanging out, like we were already friends, but his other buddy, we all started hanging out, and he was kind of our Trojan horse into hanging out downtown in 19th Street.
Cool.
This is before 19th Street was a whole gang. This is like, this is 2000, 2001. So, and that's
So this would
like
be prime Jerry's, right?
Prime Jerry's. And I would say this is like, I didn't know Ronald then, but this is like when Munoz Gym was just kind of starting.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so this is like, and the guys who like I started gravitating towards, again, all of us skated, and I still had my skate friends, but like I started getting more with my I guess it's kind of lame, but like punk friends. I would just listen to anything that they had. This is before like the internet, or like you could download things. Like there's just not like, if you would hear things on a skate video, or you'd read on the back of a record, tape or a record. I didn't have a record player then, a tape or a CD. You'd see the thank you list, and you go and try to find those bands. And it was when I met a guy named George Quick. He gave me my first tattoo. He was, to me, like anything he said was good. I knew it was like, I also thought it was good. He dressed cool. He was cool, super funny, gregarious. He was always on AOL Instant Messenger. And he'd always talk back to you. So like he got his name, and I remember his name. His name is Pussmort, and I would go and I'd ding him, and he'd be down to talk about anything. So like I'd ask him all about all these fucking bands, and he would spend, like, I think I'd spend up, because my mom worked nights. I'd 2, 3, 4 in the morning talking about bands, and it was pretty awesome. And he gave me a couple. He would give me a cassette. And I wore that. I listened to that cassette over and over and over again. George Quick was the guy who really got me in, from like listening to like Misfits and Black Flag and what I was getting on skate videos, to like a deeper stuff. I went straight from like Misfits and all that stuff to crust punk, like like Disrupt, Apolitical, Discharge. You get the idea. So he was my. While some kids were being raised on Bad Brains, I was like being raised on Discharge and Disrupt. So yeah.
There was a division, right, between kind of like the 19th Street punks and the Munoz punks, right? That went to Munoz Gym.
In the beginning, I wasn't the beginning. Ronald, I was maybe a year after, or 2 years after Ronald was booking shows.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a big divide. But what it was is the kids at 19th Street, up until honestly, even until I moved, they would go to the gym and not know how to act. There's like pivotal shows that's like changed my life. Two of those shows were at the gym, and they were my first two shows. The first one was The Locust with Catholic Decapitation, and it was the first time The Locust played there.
Wow.
It was amazing. It's on YouTube. And the second show was George booked it. And by the way, George and Ronald had a great relationship, so there was no static there. And it wasn't between. And George was very much on the side of Ronald, but a lot of like the lackeys, I would say George's lackeys, the drunk idiots from 19th Street would go there and they treated it like shit. And so this incredible show, it was a band called Axiom, and Wolfpack, that later changed to Wolf Brigade, played the gym. And it was because of that show that like I started. Well, we started a band already, but that like we really started to gravitate towards crust punk. That was my first band with Reuben from Loser Life. But that show, a lot of the 19th Street kids got so fucked up, they were like pissing everywhere. They were leaving beer bottles everywhere, and then they started tagging squatter rights stuff all over the gym. And then they either broke a mirror or they broke a door in the bathroom. And so Ronald's
Ouch.
like, "You, what the fuck are you doing? You like, I let you guys let you book the show because Jerry's wouldn't let you do shit, right? And there's no other place to do it.
Yeah.
And you guys came and you completely destroyed the place. And it wasn't like, oh, like a little this and that. No, the place was trash. And that was also when I was kind of like, man, fuck these guys. That's when I really started to kind of go away from that stuff as well. Hanging out with a lot of the 19th Street crust punk kids. It just, they were more for the party. And I was kind of like, again, I was just passionate about the music. Now, obviously not all of them. And some of them who were into the party, they're not even around anymore. So they burnt out pretty quick. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that's unique about Munoz Gym because I can't think of any other venue that didn't sell alcohol that was about the music first.
What Ronald did, though, what Ronald did is that, like, Jerry's sucked. It was like Nate who ran Jerry's was a pedophile asshole that like was a shithead to everyone. And what's funny is that he Trojan horse, like he was like a wolf in sheep's clothing, acting like, because he was in an incredible band, Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
Not incredible, but an awesome band. And then he was just an asshole, and he just cared. And he's notorious for ripping bands off, and at that point, Jerry's was like also starting to become the cool place to go. So like all like the football players that like got into pop punk started going to those shows. So like you couldn't book a band like Axiom and Wolfpack there, right? So Ronald, so like you can book it here.
Yeah.
And it's all ages. And so then they did it, and then everyone treated it like shit. So it wasn't that there was a fight. There was like static between Ronald and George, but Ronald's like, if you're going to come here, you're not going to act like that. We're not going to have shows where you can act like that. And it was a pretty long time until we started able to have crust punk shows. And that was, I would say, probably like 5-6 years, because that faction of kids who were just getting fucked up and destroying things burnt out. And then the new people came. So that was kind of this thing too. So
yeah. So you're playing in some bands. It's like early Munoz Gym era. What about 10 Stabs to the Throat? Is that one of your first bands?
So the first band I was in was with two childhood friends and Reuben. It was called Grassroots.
Okay.
And we were a crust punk band, and we covered Disrupt. And then as a band, after 2 months together, we went to the Axiom Wolfpack show, and then we really went full throttle. We had a CDR. I listened to it a few weeks ago, and it's fine. It's kind of funny how it's my first band. And then the bass player and I did another band after that called Down Syndrome Kids, and
I've seen that on a flyer. DSK.
So what happened was Grassroots played. This is where my introduction to a lot of the stuff that Ronald was putting out, not physically, but Ronald was the guy that If he liked something, it was good, right? So we played our third show at this place in the East Side. I don't remember what it's called, like the Phoenix Theater, I believe. And it was Patrick and I, the guy who did DSK with, we saw the Locust and loved it. And then from the Locust, we got into Spaz and different power violence stuff. So that's why we started DSK, because we're like, oh man, we liked it. We wanted to start making music like it. So we started just playing Spaz, like just Spaz type music, power violence.
Yeah.
But then at the Phoenix Theater, we saw Prolapse Nation, and that was Ronald's band.
Yeah.
And that was like, I was like, oh fuck, that's so cool. Like it was like what we liked. Like Drew's all crazy and scary, and Ronald's going nuts, and Melvin, the bass player, screaming. I mean, fucking 14 years old. That blew my mind. So that was like, oh, we want to start doing that. It's funny the way, like, the guitar player of Grassroots, he made fun of me because I used to have a 5-piece drum set, right? 2 toms and a floor tom. And then after we saw Prolapse Nation, I took off my right tom and I put my cymbal there like Ronald did. So I was like my floor tom, my cymbal, and my rack tom, my cymbal on my floor tom. So I'm like, well, Ronald from Prolapse Nation does it. I want to do that too. So we did that my freshman, kind of sophomore year of high school. And then at the end of sophomore year, we started going to all the gym shows. We started everything was Munoz Gym. So at that point, Jerry's Pizza wasn't even really part of the scene anymore for us. Like we started going from 19th Street to the gym. And that's when we started. I was like a junior in high school. We started 10 Steps to the Throat because we liked that kind of music, right? So went from like crust punk to power violence to like always in the metal, and then like more of the screamo stuff.
Here's a question that Matt Riot told me to ask you. But he just said to ask you about your very first fight with some military dude.
Wow, I haven't thought about this in a very long time. I don't know how it started. I don't know if we played the show or if Death Valley Driver played the show, but it was like we had a studio that was right next to Jerry's in Jake's record store at the time.
Okay.
And I think either I was getting my drums. Yeah, I think we played. 10 Steps to the Throat played, and I think Prolapse Nation or Death Valley Driver played. I don't know what happened, but this military guy came down, and I don't know, he was talking a lot of shit. And I think it might have been The Kill, actually, not Prolapse Nation. And so I don't remember. They have a better memory than I do. But the guy wouldn't shut up, and it was on video. And those guys, again, I looked up to them. I liked them all. Like they were so cool.
Yeah.
I remember the guy said something, and I was like, I was a pretty good shit talker. And I just remember like looking at him like this, boom, 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 boom. And then he kind of like, like, something like that. And I don't know how it happened, but I just went and I laid the perfect like into his jaw, and he like was flying back. And I like run upstairs, and this guy can barely move. I think he was bloody. And I go upstairs from Jerry's, and he's like trying to follow me down the street, but there's like blood everywhere. That's all I remember. So all I know is I think the kid was playing. He was talking a bunch of shit, and I was like pointing at him, and I was talking back to him. And then he's like, "What are you gonna do?" He might even throw in a first punch, and then I decked him. But I would say like that's like that right there. Actually, I would say this. That right there is what got me kind of stapled in with that group, right? Like they saw that I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. And like, it was like my growing moment with them. So maybe it does, So.
Okay, that makes sense.
During 10 Steps to the Throat, I was also in another band with a guy named Bo.
Yeah.
Bo played guitar in Prolapse Nation. And he left Prolapse Nation. And then we started our band with him, me and Patrick from Down Syndrome Kids. And it was like a Yaphet Kodos type band. Like, again, it was like just a part of the all Munoz crew. So it's funny about Bo Mingus is that I was 15 and he was, I think, 25 or 26. And he, like at that point, like he didn't drive, and I had my permit, but you're not allowed to drive with someone in the car unless they were 25. So Bo would come over and I would get in the car. I would get the car, and since he was 25, I was allowed to drive with him. Again, my mom didn't know this.
Yeah.
And then we'd have band practice together, and so that was kind of how we did that as well. So we were in a band together as well, and I really enjoyed playing with him. And it was one of the bands that, like, I look back, I wish I had more recordings of. I liked that band compared to 10 Steps to the Throat or even Grassroots. Like, I wish I had some of those recorded. So
What was the band's name again?
it was Every Dawn She Dies. Not my favorite name. We played a few shows, but again, it was like a pretty big stepping stone. And same with 10 Steps to the Throat in getting to what we do now. My junior year of high school, 10 Steps to the Throat broke up because that's what bands do.
Yep.
Again, just like I was pretty active. Like I loved playing music, and I was trying to play with anyone. I was playing around, I played with a few different people, and then I joined the Pine because that's when James left. And when I joined the Pine, that was kind of like a dream come true. Like one of my all-time favorite bands, and then
Nice.
I get to play for him, and that was like where a lot of stuff started to change for me. Being with Roger and Kurt and Bill, those three are some of the best musicians, if not the best I've ever played with. And so it was like the songwriting and the structure and just how things were run. It was just it like I ate it up, and their drive and passion for stuff was equal to mine. And that was the first time in all the bands, like I was like, all I wanted to do was just tour, record, play music, write. It's all I wanted to do. And that's all they did. So it was awesome. Songs were like an itch in the brain for the Pine. And that's how the music came out. Right. Like it was like you have that itch, you just have to like get out. And then that was the song that needed to come out. And when it came out, it was like, oh, we satisfied that itch. And then immediately you have another itch. We have to make another song. And then it was like playing shows, and we played all the time. And it's the same with Loser Life. It wasn't the same itch for songwriting and art, but like, it was like, we just loved it and we loved playing. And it was like it was our whole passion.
Yeah.
While I went to school and they went to work, like it was like what we did on weekends, right? Either go to the show or practice. So
That's cool.
Yeah, we did a lot. It wasn't until things started to slow down a bit. I learned so much from those guys that I started writing songs for Loser Life. Again, the Pine's incredible, but like something about like, oh, let's try this. And we started just getting a little bit even more quicker with our Husker Du, Hated, and Articles of Faith type of output. And so I started just playing guitar and like writing these songs. And then Bobby Allison, who ran the Gate, him and I kind of geeked out over Husker Du and SST stuff. And we just kind of, hey, do you want to start jamming together? Because again, some of the Pine stuff, we were just kind of slowing down a little bit. And so Bobby and I started jamming, and we were looking for a bass player. We had this guy, Alex, still a friend. Alex is great. He didn't have the same kind of drive that we did. Like we were practicing 3-4 times a week. And then I don't know why I didn't ask Bill, but then I asked Bill from the Pine. And when Bill got in the band, it was like, this is pretty cool. And all Bill wanted to do was play. All Bobby wanted to do was play. And all I wanted to do was play. So we just started playing constantly. It got to the point, I think we were practicing sometimes 5 times, 6 times a week.
Wow.
Because we had the Gate. We had a practice space, right? We could just leave it there and practice. And that's how Loser Life started.
That's cool. I didn't know you played guitar. That's cool.
Nothing to talk about.
Talk to me about the demo.
When Loser Life started playing, I pretty much learned how to play guitar through Roger and Kurt, and I saw how they wrote songs, and we were playing together all the time. I just started copying them, and I had a guitar at home, and I just started kind of like making it my own stuff. When we did the demo, Bobby, he was so good at making these like Rick Agnew type solos, like not solos. What's the right word? I don't know. I'm not
Riffs,
a musician.
maybe?
Riffs, yeah, whatever. And Bill like could just carry the whole song, and the challenging part is we couldn't find a singer at that point, especially with like what was going on with 19th Street and Munoz Gym. Everyone who was at 19th Street were just kind of like drunks or on heroin or doing some stupid shit. And a lot of like the Munoz stuff, we were all intertwined anyways, right? Like
Yeah.
Ronald didn't want to sing for it. I guess we could have asked Drew because he would have sang for anything he gets asked for, but we didn't want Drew to sing. We wanted someone who was a little confident, right?
Yeah.
So not like I'm confident, but like at one point where I just said, fuck it, I'll sing and play drums. And so we did, and that was a demo. I sang and played drums. And it worked for a little bit. But like I'm not that good of a lyricist, and I'm just like not that good of a drummer to keep singing and playing drums. Like it just seems kind of whatever. And then I run into a childhood friend, the guy who was in Grassroots. He sang for Grassroots, Reuben. And I go, "What's up, Reuben? How you doing?" Like he was one of my favorite people to be in a band with. I was like, "Hey, do you want to sing in this band I got going on?" I don't know why I asked him. It was just like one of those random things. And he's like, "Sure, I'll try out." He tried out, and he was like, we gave him the demo, and he tried out, and he was awesome. He did a great job singing my stupid shit. And then we had a couple songs that we didn't like finish lyrics to yet. And he put his own lyrics to it. And we were like, that's the guy. So that's how we got Reuben. We used to joke because he always looked homeless that I found him in a gutter drunk. And that's how he became in the band. And to be fair, it wasn't far off. Like I think he was definitely on a 4-day bender when I saw him. I think I was working in the grocery store. I hadn't seen him for a good 5 years at that point. I think he moved to Humboldt. He had long, scraggly blonde hair, and his voice had like a total like scuzzy grunge feel to it,
Yeah.
And then so we did our first show with him, and he looked really dumb. He's like dancing around, flopping around. Just didn't look that good. Then he goes, "I want to play guitar and sing." And we were like, "Are you sure you can do that?" He's like, "Yeah." So, and he was great. He did a great job. He wasn't the best guitar player, but like his singing and presence, like between him and Bill, they were why the band was any kind of relevant of good. Those two guys like gave it all its uniqueness. And I'm not going to take it away from Bobby as well. Like Bobby's licks, but like there was something special with Reuben and Bill individually. And I would say, I don't know if we were a special band in general, but like all together, we were a good foursome.
Yeah, I mean, you seem unique. I mean, I'm someone who discovered all this stuff later, like after it already happened. And so Loser Life was one that really stuck out to me.
But the thing is that like there was a pretty big disconnect with like the 19th Street. That's when 19th Street started becoming a thing.
Okay.
Like, we all hung out at 19th Street, but then like it became 19th Street Punks. And it kind of started with, I'm not going to name the guy because he's a fucking dickhead. But like he was in I'm not even going to say his band because that would be like, oh yeah, he called me a dickhead if he ever heard it. But
okay.
there was and some of the guys in the band are cool, but like this band was playing all the time and they were just like fucking on heroin, doing drugs, thinking that there was some G.G. Allen cover band. Then there was like Loser Life and Contaminators, shit, some other bands, but like it's just kind of us two. And it was like they would come to our shows, but like not pay or like, but just try to watch a touring band, and then but like have a shit ton of alcohol and then leave again. Goes back to like treating the gym like shit, leaving alcohol everywhere, starting fights, right? And so like it was really annoying because they weren't there to like be a part of the scene. They were just there to like be wild and crazy. Like, go be wild and crazy at Jerry's.
Yeah.
Like, fuck Nate, fuck Jerry's. Go do that. Like go destroy that place. But like what Ronald was doing at the Munoz Gym, letting me book shows there, letting our bands play there, like, and letting touring bands play there. It's this like legendary spot, as you know. What's funny is that everyone at the time, a lot of people at the time took it for granted. And now it's gone, and everyone's like, "Oh, do you remember the Munoz Gym?" Like, yeah, I do. I was at every show. Where were you? Like, oh, in the shows you did go, you were drunk, not watching the bands, like pissing in the corner. There's so much more I could say, but There was a
Yeah.
big disconnect between what was going on at 19th Street Punk, that like the original part of that gang, and I'm not shitting on 19th Street because I know it evolved to a whole different thing,
Yeah.
but the origins of that to like what was happening there, and it pissed us off. We were the ones bringing, like Ronald and I were bringing sick bands, mainly Ronald, but we're bringing sick bands on tour, like these like sick punk bands, and they would not come. And we did hard flyering. This is before like Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like we would get wheat paste, and we'd go around, we'd go to high schools and wheat paste all these flyers everywhere.
Overnight, right?
We'd make our own wheat paste. We'd go in, and because of Bobby and the gate, we were able to use a copy machine, and we'd make massive flyers, and we'd wheat paste all over town all night. Like we would advertise all the time. And if Ronald couldn't do the show, we were able to do shows at the Boiler Room, which was a sick venue too. The beginnings of the 19th Street Punk kids they would play the Boiler Room and those places, and they would destroy it. They had a little bit more respect for it because Bobby's dad, who ran the place, gave them a lot of leeway, and but it wasn't until they started going to the gym and then became a little afraid of us that they started to behave more. So, and how they became afraid of us, I think just more so. You could only
Reputation.
you could shit on something so long until someone gets pissed off, right? And so
Yeah.
also our bands were good, right? Like
Yeah.
the Contaminators were awesome. Like
Yeah.
Loser Life was fun. Like it was sick. And even and then the bands that were coming through all the time, like Harpoon Guns and Crime Desire, like those bands were like became staples of like the Bakersfield scene from like San Diego and Huntington Beach. They're like, you wanted to be a part of it, right? So
Yeah.
you had to start behaving.
You have some crazy stories from playing at the Munoz Gym with Loser Life?
It wasn't like because Loser Life was playing, it was crazy. It's just at that point, like Ronald and I were the enforcers. Not just Ronald and I, but like the people who were like people came here to misbehave, like got checked. I remember an Iron Lung show, this guy. So we used to always say punks get in free. And so these punks would come in and be like, "Oh, punks get in free," and the joke was, "Well, you're not punk. That's why you're not getting for free." But no, it's stupid. But like, they would come and it would be such a we're asking $5, $6, and these guys would have a bag full of 40s, and they'd say, "I don't have any money." So we said, "Well, then leave." And then one guy would like, "Well, I'm going to go in," and I don't know what happened. Kind of a bully, not in a good way. And the guy got a little hyphy. So at one point, I don't know what happened, but I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not leaving." And I don't think I threw a punch or anything. Maybe I did. I don't know. So many stories. But I do remember is grabbing him by his collar, either a sweater or t-shirt, and dragging him across the gravel because it wasn't like cement, it was gravel. So like your feet would hurt at the end of the night, probably,
Yeah.
And Ronald got his beer while I'm dragging him. Ronald got his beer and poured the beer all over the guy while I'm dragging him. And I threw him in the street. And what was cool at that point is a lot of the 19th Street that were like becoming more part of the scene that are now like the leaders of that whole thing now.
Yeah.
I would say like Mario and stuff. Mario was like, "Yeah, get that fucking." He would start regulating it, So that was kind of cool. That was like when things really started to come together. Of course, there was fights and stupid shit and dumb things, but like for a good 4 or 5 years, man, like at least twice a month, if not 3 times a month, there was a show at the gym, and like thank God that Loser Life had that place to do that, to book bands and to have us play, because if we didn't have that, we would be nowhere, right?
Yeah.
We would be trying to fucking coddle Nate to try to play over at Jerry's Pizza, and we did have the Boiler Room, which is great, but it wasn't the gym.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that in the beginning, especially during the Pine days, the bands that came through, like the screamo bands, were so fucking stuck up and rude about the gym. They had their noses so high and they were like, they just thought they were so. It was not novel to them. It was like, why am I playing a venue like this? This is dirty. It's dirty. It's gross. But then, like, especially like the Loser Life days, when a lot of different types of bands coming through, they loved it. And I remember a band named Chronic Seizure, who I'm good friends with. They're from Chicago. I'm good friends with the guys now. Brian brings it up all the time to me that no one showed up to that show because the day before or the day after was Hellshock, and so no one came to their show because everyone already went to the show before, or whatever. And they played. It was one of the best sets I've ever seen because they like were just so stoked to be there and playing in a boxing ring. To them, it was like it was such the coolest experience. So it's funny who loved it, and funny who kind of stuck their nose up to it, and now it's funny who's like talking about how much they miss it when we know who was there and who wasn't there. This band put lighter fluid on his cymbal and lit it on fire while he was playing drums. And Ronald goes, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, this is like this is like a flammable wood building. What are you doing?" And like stop the whole show. And to be fair, yeah, what the guy, like, it was obnoxious what the guy was doing. One time a band called Hot Cross played, and I remember this dude named Aaron Caldera jumped off the drum set because fucking loving the band, going stoked. And then the drummer stopped in the middle of the set, said, "Don't you drum off my drum set. This is an expensive drum set." And so then every kid there just sat down and watched him play in the ring. And it was like, that was a pretty cool thing.
I've read a lot about venues, so there's nothing like it. There's just nothing. It's so unique. There's just nothing like it.
I know that there'll be anything like it. Not that this is going to sound like, oh, I played here, played there. I've been lucky to, not because I've been lucky to play a shit ton of different bands and tour for a long time. That like nothing beats the specialness that was Munoz Gym.
We talked about the demo, and then you had the 45, Things Will Never Change.
Yeah, so that was our first 7-inch, and that was like we recorded like 5 songs with Reuben, and we did those 2 songs and 3 others maybe. Ronald put it out, and that was one of Ronald's first. It was one of Going Underground's first records.
Yeah,
and it was pretty cool. I already kind of had like a big chest, like, oh, I've had records out in the Pine. But when Ronald put the Lose Life record out, that felt really cool. Like, oh wow, like
nice.
Maybe people do like it, And so it was great.
Is that the start of your partnership with Jeremy Cravens?
So we met Jeremy. He's a guitar player of a band called Active Ingredients. That first Active Ingredients CD was one of the pillars of my favorite records. A good friend at the time was in the revamped Active Ingredients, which was a Christian band at that point. His name was Javier. He actually toured Europe with us. He played drums in the Christian Active Ingredients. They never played the Gym. They would play Jerry's, and they would play the Gate or the Boiler Room. Javier was a part of the Gym scene. Like, he would go to a lot of the shows, but Jeremy and Dennis did not. Jeremy started as a side gig, just kind of recording, and so he set up a whole recording studio in the South Side, or I don't remember, and we started recording with him. I think for as shitty as our equipment was, and we did it. It sounds pretty good.
So your next record was I Want the World. Is that one still your favorite?
I would say that's my favorite, or My Hell's my favorite. Colin did the I Want the World 7-inch. He's from Crime Desire. He did a label called Life's a Rape. I think that record's just awesome. I loved how it started, how it finished. Again, that was like when we were really just going for it. Like, we were touring in my grandpa's minivan on a demo tape. We were doing 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there. We were playing all the time. I think we practiced 3-4 times a week. Just like songs are just churning and churning and churning.
Yeah.
So
I saw this interview that you did, and you said Some people write about taking over the government. Some people talk about wanting to kill themselves. I got no self-respect. I got no dignity. I got nothing to worry about. I thought that sums up a lot of like some of the lyrical themes and stuff of Loser Life.
You know, they say you're like the worst version of yourself from like 17 to 25, right? I was 100. I was the worst version of myself during that time. Mortified's a little aggressive, but I'm pretty humiliated. Like, I'm pretty embarrassed by a lot of stuff that happened during that time. I don't know why I said that. What I said. I'll just say this: we were all in a pretty, like, as a band, even as friends. I'm not going to speak for the Munoz Gym, like Ronald and the Contaminators and stuff, but we were all just kind of in a really dark time. Like, I think all individually we're going through a lot of weird shit, and that was our outlet. And being able to venture out of Bakersfield, you started to like really feel the lack of respect you got being from Bakersfield and touring in a band from Bakersfield, right? And it gives you a chip on your shoulder. So putting a lot of the dark stuff that we were all dealing with and coming up with, and then going out and feeling like we were being treated like, I don't know, peasants, peons, whatever the right word is. It just started to really accumulate where like there was a lot of anger and a lot of sadness. And it was a thin line. So
yeah.
Between Reuben and I writing some of the lyrics, he was a much better lyricist than I was. But between him and I mean, it was like at one point I'm surprised if anyone ever read it, like if they ever checked up on us, see if we were okay. To fast forward, Reuben eventually was diagnosed with manic schizophrenia and bipolar, where a lot of the stuff that he was writing about and doing on tour started to check out why it was happening. And it became, I mean, outside of my own psyche and paranoia, he also contributed to a massive like divide in the band because of his sickness. What was it? It's fault, I guess, you know?
Your first album, I Have Ghosts and I Have Ghosts, and you went on a big tour, right? Let's talk about that.
All I wanted to do was tour. When the Pine did Europe, we got back and Roger and Kurt were kind of like wanting to not tour as much, if tour at all, and just write songs. And I wanted to keep touring. And so that's kind of why Also Lose Life started. It's like I wanted to live on the road.
Nice.
So we booked this, I think it was about 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks US tour. We bought a van and used all my contacts for the people that Ronald booked or I booked, and also just like went on MySpace and found random bands on thank you lists. Kind of like when you're trying to discover a band, you're like, oh, and then you go and you find their thank you list. You get the band's record that you like or that you've like played with. You go to their thank you list and you go, oh, they're from Buffalo, New York, and you reach out to them. And that's how I booked the first US tour. I did the first LP. It was a pretty successful tour. We came back with some good funds. It was kind of one of the funnest times of my life. It was the first US tour that I did that was like it just all went by really smoothly. You know, we didn't have any flat tires, no fights, nothing. You know, it was cool.
Yeah.
We didn't have a roadie. It was just us four. And yeah, we just played. It was fun. It was great.
Any memorable shows on that tour?
Prime Desire joined us for the East Coast portion of the tour. And then we played a couple really gnarly shows. One time with a band called No Fucker in New York, Ithaca, New York. And then we played a show in Virginia or DC. And we played a show in Cincinnati. And the show in Cincinnati was funny because no one showed up to the show. When you're booking a show, it was like, hey, give us Friday. We can get a lot of people at the show. And we're like, okay, you could have Friday in Cincinnati. And this guy was like, it's going to be so sick. Prime Desire is going to fly in. They're going to rent a car and they're going to use our equipment. And we're going to start like 7 days with them. And so this guy booked the show. No one showed up. And it's in like the middle of summer and in one of the gnarliest, ghettoest neighborhoods in Cincinnati. And you can't really go outside to your van because it's like one of those things that you just don't know what you're going to run into. So we're just kind of like hanging out in the venue. We play the set. No one's there. I don't think, honestly, the sound guy and the guy who booked the show.
Wow.
Who is a notorious ripoff who's like now popular again. I don't can tell you. I'm not going to give that person. It's a girl now. Uh, Credit, but he at the time was like, okay, I have money for you guys. Stay here. I'll come back. I'm gonna go get it to my ATM and I'll come back. We'll wait like an hour. He's like never back. And this is before like when texting was kind of, like this is 2005, right? So like texting wasn't really that like fluid. 2006. So we're like, hey, where are you? And he's like, stop returning our text. So Loser Life at the time had a bat, and our bat had Loser Life spray painted on it, and we called it the manager. If there's ever money issues or anything wrong, we take it to the manager. So we actually showed up. We actually showed up to this guy. We found out we know where he lived. We drove to his house. He lived about 45 minutes away, and showed up to his house looking for money. And we got, I think, like, I don't know, $35 out of him. We had the manager in hand, ready to go. It's kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
And we all went to a Waffle House, and you know, I'm still pretty good friends with the Crime Czar guys. It was just a lot of fun and laughing, and we enjoyed the story. Goes back to like, again, we had a chip on our shoulders, right? And we already had an unmitigated sadness and anger, and then we had this chip on our shoulders that like don't fuck with us kind of thing.
All right, so My Hell, you mentioned that EP earlier.
I think that's, if I had to be a critic, that's without a doubt our best record. We like played those songs, and again, that was like probably our darkest. When we went into the recording, we always recorded live, and I was like, I'm gonna play as fast as I can go. Keep up.
Wow.
So when we practice songs, we practice them normal, and then when we did the recording, we're like, let's just play as fast as we can go. I don't know why we decided to do that. At that point, I think we really liked those songs. We wrote those songs all together. Like we wrote the lyrics together. We were always together. We were always hanging out. But yeah, I just thought everything came out great. I am very proud of that record.
So you went on a Europe tour. Was that supporting this?
Yeah. So after we did the first US tour, we did another like West Coast tour. We were kind of writing a new record, a couple new 7-inches, and practicing. And then we got asked if we wanted to tour Europe. I didn't think that was possible. The Pine did Europe. So it was, yeah, we want to go. And said, well, how long do you want to go for? I said, yeah, as long as you can take us. So Colin from Prime Desire, he also released a My Hell 12-inch. We were like, yeah, we'll go to Europe. So we took that record with us and some of the first LP and some 7-inches. And we did 6 weeks in Europe. What we did, what a lot of bands weren't doing, is I was studying a lot of like Ukrainian and Eastern Bloc history in school and like anarchist history and all that stuff. So I'm like, can we play Ukraine and Slovenia, Slovakia, and all that area? So a good portion of that tour, like 2 weeks of that tour, we were in deep Eastern Europe.
Wow.
And there's some videos that are just incredible for our shows in Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was awesome. So what sucked is Bobby, the guitar player at that point, goes, I can't go to Europe. I don't want to go to Europe. Money was an issue, working was an issue, and then he goes, he was going to go with his church to go to China. I don't know if Bobby was actively trying to be a missionary. I actually don't think at all at the time, but he looked at the China trip as like a free trip, and then at that point, I said, we're just going to get a new guitar player. And that's when we got Mike Diaz from Crime Desire. He played bass in Crime Desire, and he said, I would love to play guitar in Loser Life.
Nice.
I could move back to Hanford. And he started playing with us. So he learned all of our songs really quickly, and he brought like a kind of intensity that Bobby didn't have. Bobby was smooth and had Bobby had his own feel. And
yeah,
honestly, he was amazing. So there's no better or worse. But Mike brought like a type of intensity that was pretty cool that we didn't have before. I mean, Bill's a fucking maniac anyways. It didn't matter what was happening. Bill was the wrecking ball that was taking care of everyone. Mike joined the band and we did Europe together. And that's when like Reuben and I really started to fucking hate each other. We really did not get along. One of the shitty things for Reuben is that he was he had to drive. He was the only one who got. He was the only one who got the
License or
the
something?
European license. So then he drove, and we didn't want to pay for a driver, so he drove everywhere,
Wow.
and that's pretty taxing on someone. So he would
Yeah.
stay up because we got all the free alcohol, and he was the only one who drank. Bill kind of drank, not really. Mike didn't drink, and I didn't drink. I drink occasionally, but you get the idea. It was not much.
Yeah.
And he would stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then drive all night. Drive all day, and then play a show, and then drive all day. It got to the point where like he got so sloppy playing guitar because he was either drunk or not sleeping that I tried to no drinking before shows, and I tried to be this tyrant, and I was really a stupid person, and that wasn't the issue at all. The issue was he was completely burnt out. Like he was driving and playing and drinking every day for 6 weeks straight. I don't remember where we were, but I remember we were sleeping in a squat, and I hear Reuben talking to someone, and he's like talking all night, and Reuben starts speaking some different language. I'm like, this motherfucker doesn't know German. I go upstairs, and like the lights are off. He's like by a candlelight, just drinking. It's like bottles of beer everywhere. He's been talking to himself for 3 hours, and started just speaking random languages to himself. And that's when we started to realize. That's when I started to realize maybe something's wrong. It's pretty scary. We spent a lot of time together. I think Mike getting in the band also brought a weird dynamic. His personality was a little different from our personality. He wasn't from Bakersfield. And I mean, from Bakersfield, you're just kind of built different. He couldn't keep up with the Bakersfield guys. I'll tell you a funny story. We were playing some sick fest in Poland. We had about 4.5 weeks of tour at this point. So we were exhausted. We smelled like shit. We're in the van, tired. We play in the middle of the set. So it's like it's like in the middle of the show. So it's not like we're not headlining or we're not like opening. So we just have some time to kill. And this Polish guy comes up to us and he goes, "I fucking hate Americans." And at that point I sit up, I'm like, "What did you say?" And it's like by our van. So like he came and instigated us. Like, "What did you say?" And I think Bill was in the seat, and then Reuben was on the outside, or Mike was on the outside. And I'm like, "What did you say?" He's like, "I fucking hate Americans." And then he spit at me. And so then I grab him, we throw him in the van, and I'm going to leave it at that. And then we throw him out of the van. So
Oh, man.
that was kind of like our unifying moment as a band, but we were tired and beat up and cranky, and we didn't get along. So Bill got along with everyone because Bill's great. And again, Reuben was burnt out, and Mike was just he was a rigid guy to talk to. And I'm probably the biggest villain.
What's the biggest show that you played in Europe, do you think?
The first time would have to be Berlin, and then some of those Ukraine shows are pretty sick. We played a lot of shows with a band called Discarga. In Amsterdam, we played like this awesome festival where we didn't headline, but we were like third or fourth from headlining. I think I looked out and it was, I'm not good with numbers, but it was a sea of people. Not like Woodstock or anything, but it was pretty insane. And we played a lot of festivals in Poland that there was just, you look out and it's a lot of people. So it's cool. So on a Loser Life West Coast tour, we had a roadie with us. He was actually the guitar player of my first band, Grassroots. So he was close with Reuben.
Cool.
And he had some trouble where he like lived in San Francisco, and then he got in an accident moving, and then got stuck in Bakersfield for a few months. So he came on tour with us. Well, we were driving all the way to Canada, and we were playing. And this was like our second West Coast tour, which was it was like a really successful tour. It sounds cheesy, but we made a lot of money, which is how we paid for some of the recording for the last LP.
Nice.
And we did this West Coast tour. And we were going to Vancouver, Canada, and we got stopped at the border. And he was trying to find border guy was like trying to detaining us, like, "Why are you coming here?" Since we had a bunch of equipment and merch. We're like, "Oh, we're just like visiting for a couple of days." They know what we're doing. So he thought he would get us. He's like, "All right, you four can go, but you have to stay here," thinking that he was going to break the band up. But the guy he had stay there was our roadie. So we left our roadie at the border town, went and played this show in Vancouver, which is right over the border. And it was an insane show. It was one of the coolest shows we've ever played. It was in a basement called the Alf House. The Alf House that the Pine originally got kicked out of, 5 years before. So it's kind of funny that Bill and I were there. We were enjoying it. And he got kicked out, and we put the show, and then now it's like midnight. We have to drive back, go get Eric. So we drive back. We go to this border town. It was a Thursday because the Raiders were playing, and he comes. He like comes from this bar, and he's blackout drunk because he's been sitting there drinking for 14 hours,
Oh.
and he ran out on his bar tab. So he runs into the van. He's like, "Let's go, let's go." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Just go." So we're driving off, and this person's running out of the bar, shaking, throwing beer bottles at the car, trying to get him to come pay his bar tab. That was probably the hundreds of thousands of dollars. He did say Nelly was playing the same night in Vancouver, and Nelly's bodyguard didn't go over, so he was hanging out with Nelly's bodyguard the whole time. So pretty funny. I'll tell you another story. So we flew from our first European tour. We flew from Frankfurt or Berlin, I forget, the UK, and we were like doing our final stint of the UK tour, of the tour in the UK. It's really hard to get in the UK without any kind of like visa or passport. We land, three of us went to one airport and two went to a different airport. We did that on purpose so they would be like, "Oh, you just have guitars." They wouldn't think that we're a touring band. Well, our guitar player, Mike, and Reuben got detained. So me, Bill, and the roadie we had, Javier, from the drummer from Active Ingredients. He was on tour in Europe with us. We were at a different airport, and then Reuben and Michael were detained at the Heathrow airport. They got detained and put into a room for about 16 hours and fed bologna sandwiches. And we had to miss our first show. And at one point, Michael told me Reuben was a really stubborn person. He as a vegan, he took the bologna out and he put mustard on the bread, and then he went and he started eating the bread, and then the guy kept trying to like get questions out of him. This is what Mike told me. Reuben just starts spitting out all of the bread with mustard everywhere and pretending to answer his questions. I don't know how they got through. And then at one point, Mike's like, "Oh, can you just answer the question so we can get out of this room?" But Reuben was so pissed, he wouldn't do what he was supposed to do to get out. Eventually, they got out of the stuff, and that's how they moved on. So, yeah, so that was and then we finished our European tour through the UK.
It's cool.
Yeah.
The final album, Friends with a Demon.
Yeah, so that was the album we did with Mike. I really hated singing. I wasn't in the best shape, and I just wasn't a good drummer singer at the same time. That was the record that Colin wanted to fully do from Carter Desire. And he's like, "I want you guys to go to an actual studio." And so we wrote a lot of those songs on the European tour. We wrote a lot of those songs on there, Michael and I did.
Nice.
You could hear a pretty distinct difference from like Michael's songs to my songs. My songs are more simpler. His songs are a little bit more elaborate. It's not a secret here, but it might be shocking to some. The lyrics that me and Reuben had were pretty much about how much we hated each other. My songs were sometimes about him, his were about me. If you even go through the lyrics, he'll say something, and then I'll say something. I guess it got some good tension. That's one of my least favorite ones. Some of the songs are pretty good, but we were in a real studio. I think that everyone was pretty tired at that point. I didn't give a shit about being famous or making money, but I wanted to record, I wanted to write songs, I wanted to tour. And then Michael had to drive an hour and a half from Hanford every practice, and we couldn't do practicing 2 to 3 times a week anymore because he had to come from Hanford. And Bill was fatiguing on the band, and Reuben was becoming just a little bit Like he had a girlfriend and becoming more and more into his home life. It's not like the the prize of the band. The band to me was the My Hell stuff, and I went the World 7-inch. But we did the LP and it came out, and yeah, like and then Europe, this Taken by Surprise, he did a My Hell version and the Friends of the Demon version, and I think maybe he sold 100 of each. So that poor guy is sitting on thousands of records of our band that never sold, and that sucks.
Wow.
But after that record, we did a U.S. We were going to do another U.S. tour, and Michael, I wish I said no to him, but he's like, "Why are we doing U.S. again when we can do Europe again?" And I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "Let's just do the United States." And we get into an argument. I said, "Fine, let's just do both." And so then we did 3 weeks U.S. tour, which is fucking crazy. And Adam Schwartz came on tour with us, which was nice. And then we did 3 weeks. Then we took 2 days off and then 3 days Europe. And Bill came to me and said he can't do the tour. He couldn't get time off work. And I think it was just taking 6 weeks off work, and then 6 weeks after the last European tour, and then the US tour before. I just don't think I don't say he didn't want to do it. I think he was just tired. And this is also like we've had multiple West Coast tours, right? Like we were playing
Yeah.
out weekends here, weekends there. We weren't playing like Gold, where they play every weekend, but we were playing a lot. And we got a replacement bass player, and again, it changed the dynamic. And it was the U.S. tour and the parts of Western Europe were really successful. Probably our biggest shows, not really successful and not like huge shows, but it was like our most successful shows because it's our second time through, and we had a lot of material. I don't think we were that good. Like I think at that point, like we were rushing to the set, and we were just kind of like going through the motions. But yeah, it was they were popular shows. And then in Europe, we started touring. We wanted to do the Eastern Europe again, so we got booked and at this like festival in Hungary. It's about 40 miles south of Budapest. So we're playing this festival, and we show up, and it's like this is like out of a movie. So what's that movie with Green Room? It's almost like a scene out of Green Room. So we drive through, but this is you can ask any of the band members. They would tell you the story. We drive to this venue. We pull up. It's like in the woods, middle of nowhere. There's like I would say over 1,000 people. Insane. It's a huge park, and they're all like punks. They're all like dressed to the nines. And we see like these three gnarly. They looked 9 feet to me, but they were probably like 6 foot something. Nazi skinheads walking out of the venue, out of the park, and we're kind of like, oh, maybe they're just getting kicked out, whatever, kind of weird. So we go and we park the van, and we go in and we find the promoter, and it's just again we don't have a driver, it's just us four, and we go up to him like, hey, we're Loser Life. And he said, "Oh, here's some food. You want some food?" And we're like, "Is it vegan?" Because at the time, both the bass player who was touring with us, Daniel, and Reuben were vegan. So he's like, "Yeah, it's vegan." And I go, "Hey, let me try it." So I went and tried it, and it was full blown meat. It was like a full meat soup. So the vibes of this place were just a little off. And at one point, it was us four hanging out. Like we just like wouldn't leave each other's side. We go to this picnic table, and there's this guy that's like doing a lot of weird stuff to this girl, and we like stop it, and then he like runs off. I don't know. It was again blurry. Then she goes to her friends, and then at this point we're like, what's going on with this venue? And now the show, and now the lights, the sun's going down. It's getting darker and darker, and everyone that's at this show is watching this next band, and we're playing after him. And the guy says something in Hungarian, and then all of a sudden he says something else, and then you could see on his neck a death totem tattooed on his neck. The lights the lights go off, like the lights from the stage go off, and he says, "Seek hell, seek hell." And all of a sudden, the lights shine on the whole crowd, and everyone starts seek helling.
Oh
We
my
realize we're
gosh, that's
headlining a
horrifying.
Nazi festival. So we're headlining a Nazi festival. And on top of that, not to make it about us, the bass player with us is Lebanese, looked like he came straight from Israel. And Michael, the guitar player, looked like another like a doppelganger of Steve Perry from Journey, who also looked like he came straight from Israel. And then you have me and Reuben, who were blonde hair, blue eyes. So those guys, at that point, I'm like, I have to be band dad. I look at those guys, I go to the fucking van right now. They run to the van. I go, Reuben, I need you to get all of our equipment, like because all we had were guitars and cymbals at that point. I said, go and put it in the van real quick. So we go and put it in the van, and I go up to the promoter and I go, hey, our guitar player and bass player are vegan, and this isn't vegan food. Can we get the money now so we can go buy some food real quick before we can come back and play? And the guy's like, yeah, no problem. Gave us the money we're supposed to play for the show. And we start leaving town. Because it wasn't euros, it was the Hungarian dollar or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, while we're leaving town, we're supposed to go to Romania after this. So while we're leaving town, the promoter figures out what we just did. We stole the money. We had like a cell phone. He starts calling the cell phone, and he says he's chasing us. So now, like holy fuck, like we're gonna get killed. At that point, we turn around and we start heading back for Germany. We had our home base in Berlin. Our label was in Berlin. So we get to Germany, and we only had like 4 or 5 days left. That was kind of like just not, the van wasn't really working. It was time to cancel the tour anyways. That was the final thing. So we canceled the last part of our European tour. So that was one of the scariest stories. And then we played like one show outside of Berlin before we had to fly back, and Michael and I got into a fist fight, kind of. He just wouldn't shut up, and I was tired of it, and I probably was really stupidly annoying, and we got into a scuffle, and then that was the end of Loser Life.
And that Life number 2 had already come out by then.
So Burning Fields and Life number 2 were recorded around the same time, or at the exact same time.
So I guess after Loser Life, right, kind of combined some members with Contaminators to make Human Mess.
So that was all during the exact same time. Contaminators, Human Mess, Loser Life. Ronald and I, we were pretty close. I would work Ronald's store, and that's who I'd go and hang out with. And our friend Mark, they just said, we have some songs. Would you be interested? It wasn't that formal. It was like, hey, we have some songs. Let's like start a band. Cool. Again, it kind of goes back to what I said originally. Like we were all dealing with Darren. All of us were just dealing with a really fucked up time in our life. And we did the 7-inch, and the songs came like that. And I heard the songs. I had lyrics already because I was writing all the time. And I would even just write on the spot. I'm really proud of a lot of stuff that Human Mess did. I wasn't then, but when I look back at it, I think those songs are really good. And I think the lyrics were some of the best lyrics I've written. I think it was 3 to 4 maniacs who just kind of found each other at the right. It was lightning in a bottle, and can't be replicated. And it just happened to come out. And
Yeah.
that all happened at the exact same time as Loser Life and Contaminators. I would say Ronald was the same way. Like we were all extremely passionate about what we were doing. We were either booking shows, listening to music, writing music, recording music. Ronald was releasing records. He also did the Heartbeat side project. He was doing every song. He did every song's Revolution at that point. So it's like we were all so busy. Again, we kind of fast forwarded, but Adam Schwartz came on that U.S. tour with us the second time, and he was 18, he just graduated high school, and it was awesome. It was best rodeo I've ever had. It's just incredible being around.
I know I listened to this podcast, Laugh Now, Die Later, that's hosted by Ricky, and he interviewed Adam, and on that, Adam credited you with teaching him how the business works, how to book shows, how to work with other people and stuff like that?
I love the behind the scenes aspect of the band stuff. Like I loved booking shows. I loved organizing. I loved like having a map and learning how to go here and there and like and juggling the itinerary. I loved it. I loved talking to labels. I loved wrestling with like bands and like artwork. I like loved behind the scenes stuff. Say I'm good at all of it is a different thing, but I really enjoyed the business aspect of it. Even when I moved to Chicago and toured other bands in Chicago, it was cool that I took over for a lot of these bands, and it worked a lot of times. So it was rewarding.
That's cool.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun for me. I'm really proud of some of the bands I've been in Chicago. It's gonna sound cheesy, but like I was in a band, like one of my favorite bands was Pillage. And it's with like these guys who were bands I grew up listening to. You know, it was kind of sounds cheesy, but like a dream come true to play with these guys. You know, it's like members of Crudos and Charles Bronson and MK Ultra, and it's like, holy shit, I'm like playing with these dudes. You know, it was pretty sick.
That's like a super group.
Yeah, and yeah, totally. And like it was just awesome being in those bands and buddies with those guys, and did a couple bands with some a couple LPs here and there, some demos here and there, and then I'm really lucky and fortunate to have known who I've got to know and play who I've got to play with. Especially for not being the best drummer, right? The availability and the wantingness and willingness to do it. Like again, the passion never went away. I love it, and I love the grind of it all. I play in a band now with a good friend of mine. He has his own recording studio, and it's just kind of like fun. You know, we write songs together. We have no drive to try to make play a show. We have an LP, and someone wants it, we'll sell it to them. It's just easy. It's fun. And then I'm with the Pine, those guys and some of my closest friends, and it was awesome because you know we didn't talk for a decade or so, maybe maybe more than that, and maybe it was 15 years, 16, 17, 18 years, and it's like we never stopped talking, and so it's nice being with those guys. It's nice that Ronald and Adam are spearheading a lot of great stuff for us too. So very thankful for them. That it wasn't for Ronald and Adam, none of this would have happened. And it's been great.
Yeah.
And again, like the grind never went away. Like if I get hyper focused on something, I'm never going to stop. With Roger, Kurt, and Bill, like we're all marathoners, and there's nothing better in my book. We match each other's intensity.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I was so excited to go to the Pine show at the 4 and 5 a couple months ago. Going to the Pine show at the 4 and 5 was so fun, and to really see the type of energy that the Pine brought versus what other bands bring to the 4 and 5 was really cool. The Pine is just an iconic Bakersfield band. You went on tour all over, and everyone that knows anything about emo knows how important the Pine is. And so it was just fun to see.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love it. I love those guys. Love playing in a band with them. Love writing songs with them. It's great. And of all the bands I've been in, I'm the most proudest of the Pine.
What are some local bands, past or present, that you want to shout out?
A lot of bands that were never unearthed, or the demos did really well. Like again, I said it earlier, the Active Ingredients first CD, the Everything Sucks CD, was incredible. The Acrylic The World's Given Up CD, without a doubt, was like I listened from start to finish. Everything Sucks by Active Ingredients, Prost Nation. Just any band that came through, I'd always buy something, or like I guess your podcast can't see, but if you look behind me, I've kept every single artifact from every show I've ever been to, or every record. Like I don't sell. I love it all. So it's past Acrylics, that first Active Ingredients record. That's about it, I guess. Again, Props Nation. It was awesome. A big figure of like where I started. You know, Roger was in a band called Fletcher, but that was before my time, but it's still really good. And I'll just say this, what Taylor and those guys are doing right now, like what Gold and every offset of band that Gold is doing is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I like to support and keep up any way I can. So I make sure to get all that stuff, and it's they're doing it better than I think we ever did it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. The 415 is the DIY place. It's the best one.
Yeah, and going underground records is without a doubt, like, it is what Ronald said then was cool, and what he says now is cool, and he's always right. He's a guy that was monumental in like what I got into. He'd be up there with skateboard videos and the music that I got from there.
All right, I want to talk about something that is a pretty consistent theme on the podcast. All right, it's basically that Bakersfield can be a really rough place to grow up and live in, you know, and kind of like, how do you make something with that? Well, what do you do? You're stuck here. Well, what do you do with that? There's a specific songs that you've written, like, about how hard Bakersfield is to live in. Even on your MySpace of Loser Life, it used to say Devil Town, California. You know, do you have any advice to people that live here, like what to do? I don't mean like for fun. I mean like vis-a-vis art.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have advice. I'll say this, though. I thought we romanticized the struggle of what Bakersfield was a lot when I was there. And then I moved to Chicago 17 years ago. And it's funny that, like, I used to think when I lived in Bakersfield, like, oh, maybe we just like romanticize this whole thing. But then when I moved to Chicago, it really is a really fucking weird, hard, awkward place to live, to grow up and live. Like, I can't explain it. There's something in the air. You know, it'll say it's 50 degrees outside, but it feels like 30, right? Like the air's thick there. While a lot of times it's like, for some people, they're able to swim, but trying to do any kind of like art or whatever in Bakersfield is like swimming through Vaseline. It's a lot harder there, and the cream always rises. It's kind of crazy what has come up, because what does pressure create? Either breaks pipes or makes diamonds. And I believe it's made a lot of diamonds. And that's kind of like, I don't have advice for anyone.
Yeah.
Because like, just do it, you know? Matt Mickey, one of my closest friends, if you give him a phone call, and he's like a world-renowned rollerblader, you give him a phone call and you get his answering machine. He says, he doesn't say you called Matt Mickey, nothing. It just goes, do what you love and do it now. That's what the advice is in Bakersfield. Just do it. You know, Ronald wanted to book shows for the bands he liked because he couldn't do it at Jerry's because Nate was an asshole. So what did he do? He booked it at a gym, right?
Yeah.
And now look at Taylor. Taylor wants to book bands, wants to keep booking it for things, and Jerry's is not there, and there's no real good venues anymore. So what did he do? He opened up
415.
Yeah, 415. Those are the guys that you look at, you're like, wow, like that's what's incredible. The same with the bands, right? Like, Ronald's passionate about records. What did he do? He opened a record store. I was his first customer at the Haberfield building, right? He opened the record store because Andy Noyes, the record store before, was trash. So he bought it. And then look where that was, what, 20 something years ago? Look at him now. Like, he is one of the best record stores, arguably in the world, right? So, yeah. And he's one in LA. So it goes back to what Matt Mickey said. Do what you love and do it now. It's like, don't let anything hold you back.
I ain't expressing everything out people I want. They see faces in tragedies and round the rail. Nothing I talk to you, it seems it's not always